Hey guys, it's Dan, the old buzzard video. Let's see if we can get part 3 of the communications radio install knocked out. I had intended to do a lot better job on all this, but man, time's a fleeting thing, and you just got to do what you can do when you can do it. So that's what I've done. I wanted to do a lot fancier install than what I ended up with. There's absolutely nothing wrong with what I've done, but it's just a real basic, quick install. Didn't take hardly any time at all. In fact, it went in so quick that I didn't get any pictures of while I was installing it. But it's so simple, it doesn't matter. Let me turn the camera around and we'll talk about it. So there's the install. We'll get some more pictures a little later. I had wanted to put it up on the roof up here. I was going to make a plastic plate that fit where you buy the Can-Am switch panel to put up there. But I was going to put a plastic plate across it and put some terminals up there and make a way to feed maybe a rear brake light or the rear spotlights or something. But I just ran out of energy for doing that, and as I was kind of testing the radio and setting it around different places, it just seemed to be a real natural fit right there. So let's have a look at that. Let me get out here. With a Rifab window, it makes it real easy to see the rear. It still gives me room to have, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it still gives me room to have my multiple outlet USB charger there. I keep one on the camera all the time, one plugged into the tablet all the time, and one to keep the phone plugged into all the time. Then it gives me one more port to plug something else in, but there's still room for all that. To get the coax and the power connectors up, I did have to open the drain hole in the bottom down there just a tiny bit. Was nothing big, but that's what the install looks like. We'll come around on this side. So that's what it looks like from over here. I haven't mounted the mic yet. I'm not sure where I'm going to end up putting it. I might just leave it sitting down there. It's kind of a natural little tray for it, but it doesn't seem to interfere with too much, so I'm pretty happy with all that. Antenna wise, that's what I was worried about the most. I have to keep it strapped down to get it underneath the lift there, otherwise when I back out it'll catch on something. It'll go in just fine, but it catches coming back. So let's let the antenna up. The antenna would be a lot better, of course, if it, there we go. If it were straight up, it would be a better antenna, but that was just so easy just to mount it right in the center right there. It does bob a little bit, so I may have to get a clamp to clamp this down, and then it'll bob a lot less. It'll just be the spring bobbing instead of the whole. See, right now the whole mount flexes. But the bottom of the connectors, I epoxied all that in. You can just unscrew it from the mount. There, it's unscrewed from the mount. And I still need to put some dielectric grease in here to keep it dry, but it does have, yeah, it needs the dielectric grease. I was going to say it has a rubber grommet, but the grommet is actually between the brass piece and the mount. So coax runs inside, and still runs inside. It just seemed to fit nice. Oh, I do have a piece of wire here. See, I on the screws, let's see, I've got it all hooked back up. But on the screw for the mount, I put a wire on it so that I could ground the antenna mount. But it doesn't seem to matter reception wise or standing wave wise, whether it's grounded or not. So I may still ground this, but it's not really doing anything. It follows the contour of the window down just perfectly. So you can see the coax behind the seat here. Goes forward just a little bit until I go up and into the console, I guess I'll call it. And then up and in. Power wires, it's just the same thing you wire everything to. You know, you won't be able to see it, I'm sure, but there's the 3 terminals down there, accessory switched on all the time, and ground. Just went right straight to those. Well, that's a little inverter I keep in here for the Christmas lights. That's all I've ever used it for, and I keep washing it down with water. It's not waterproof rated or anything. I keep washing it with water and it still works. It's kind of the oddest thing. But in any case, that's how the installation went. I did have to move my clock forward a bit. There's a clock and thermometer. I had to move it forward because it was down here. But it all seems to come together, so I'm happy. So now let's talk a little bit about the antenna. I think in the previous video I told you these antennas were adjustable, and good high quality antennas are. In fact, you perhaps can even see the Allen head set screws for moving things up and down. I tried to adjust it, and there's really no adjustment to it. So I started reading a little more on these cheap antennas. They're pretty much pre-tuned. You can actually cut the rods if you want, but they're not like a good antenna where the set screw allows you to move the rod up or down about a ½ inch at a time. But at the VHF and UHF frequencies, evidently it's not as critical to have the absolute precise length of antenna for standing wave match. Standing wave. So that's what this little meter is for. And this is critical for some installations. I'm almost going to tell you that you don't have to have one. If you buy one of those cheap little antennas that's pre-tuned and you really can't do anything about it anyway, as long as you've got real good reception with it, you can probably bet you're going to transmit okay. But I want to show you a little bit about how these meters work. You can get a cheap little one like this for about $30 or $35. They're not real high quality, but they do the job. So let's turn this thing on. I've got it. Well, it already went. Let's see if we can capture that again. You can program these radios. So first turn it on, it says Dan Plute, Old Buzzard. I thought that was kind of cute. So let's see, there's volume control on this side.
50%. Tuesday, rain or snow likely. Highs in the mid to upper 40s.
Okay, we'll turn that down. And a lot of controls on the microphone itself. So as a for instance, well, let's do it with the radio. You might be able to see that little arrow right there. That means we're going to transmit on that frequency, which would be the weather frequency. We don't want to do that. So let's toggle off of the weather frequency so we don't have to listen to it. It'll listen to both frequencies at the same time. This 146.550 that I've got dialed in, that's an amateur radio frequency that I'm licensed to operate on. So in order to get up there, there's 2 ways to do it. One's with the microphone. With the microphone, you hit the A-B button, because A's on top, B's on bottom. See that little arrow that moves up and down? So you'd be transmitting on WX5 if you've got a transmit frequency in it. You key it and it'll transmit up on 146.550. We'll listen to that a little bit. That's the 2 meter simplex, kind of a national calling frequency. 2 meters so dead that I'd never hear anybody on it over here. But in any case, I am licensed on that one, so we won't mess around with any of the other frequencies because we're not licensed on them. Anyway, the SWR meter. So in order to check a standing wave ratio, which is the amount of power that you're actually putting into the air versus the amount of power that's being reflected back by a bad antenna and into the radio to be dissipated as heat instead of radio energy. That's what SWR is, a ratio of radiated energy versus energy radiated back into the antenna. If you have a 3-to-1 ratio, you can bet your antenna is completely bad. Anything under 2-to-1 would be considered good. So let's have a look at how we operate this. This is a three-handed deal though. So I'm set up to transmit on 146.550. And we're going to put the meter into the set. There's SWR, set, and power reading, but set. Then we key the radio up. Let's see if I can do this. We key the radio up and we turn the knob down here until we get all the way up to the infinity mark. So we'll key it up. Okay, so we're keyed up. This is WA7DAN, SWR testing, WA7DAN. So we had keyed it up, we turned the knob until the needle came all the way up to the infinity mark, and now we'll put it back into SWR. And we'll key it up again, and we see that the meter is at about 1.2. So WA7DAN, SWR testing. Anybody on frequency, come and talk to me. WA7DAN. And I was kind of waiting for a second to see if anybody would come out. But you can see there that was a very... Oh, that was a hospital frequency. What the heck? I better look at my phone again. That freaks me out. That was Tri-State Hospital here. It could be that I've goofed up a little, but that's okay. Anyway, let's see. So that's SWR testing. We saw we had a real good SWR ratio at 146.550. Could have swore that was... could have sworn that was the right frequency to test on. But let that be a cautionary tale to you. Evidently I wasn't careful enough, or something switched while I wasn't really paying attention. I was actually transmitting on a frequency that a hospital monitors. May well be one of the public service, ambulance, police, fire, medical frequencies. I should not have done that, so I need to be a little more careful in the future. But good cautionary tale, and it tells you can get yourself in trouble with these radios. So anyway, that's the quick tour. What else can I tell you? I need to learn a lot more about it myself. These little microphones have a lot of functions on it. There's what they call the VFO button right above my thumb. VFO is a variable frequency oscillator. When it's in a VFO mode, you can tune to any frequency that these radios will allow you to tune to. So you push the button once, it'll get you into VFO mode. If you push the button another time, it gets you into the channel mode. Those are the channels that you have created in your software and downloaded into the radio. So right now I've got them both in channel mode. So just running through here, you can see WX2. These are all my weather frequencies. 4, 5, 6.
A chance of rain or snow. Highs.
There was 7. Okay, so now I can tell you that I do have all the family radio service FRS channels plugged in, FRS and GMRS. Where's those pesky GMR and GMRS channels plugged in? There's absolutely nothing wrong with monitoring those frequencies. It's up to you whether you want to transmit on them or not. But there's nothing illegal about having them in the radio. It's just illegal to transmit on them. So I need to go through and add a lot more frequencies. I'm going to look up all the sheriff's frequencies and search and rescue frequencies. What else? Oh, I've got to get all the right amateur frequencies for my repeaters here in this area put in. But then I'll just upload it to the radio again, and there it is. So I think this might be enough to conclude. Yeah, that's 14 minutes. Enough to conclude the installation of this little radio. Really straightforward, and couldn't figure out any other place that would keep me from banging my knees on it and putting it up in the overhead console like I wanted. Just a little too problematic. Oh, the other thing I should say is I had to buy absolutely nothing else. You know, in the earlier video I showed you that I bought spools of wire, and I bought some loom and bought a number of different things to do the installation. The only thing that I actually bought to do the install was the radio itself, the antenna, and the antenna mount with the coax. That's all that you needed to buy to do the entire install. SWR is kind of optional. If you can get the weather stations and some of the other things, your antenna's probably okay, but it's good to double check with the SWR meter. So anyway, happy to answer any other questions that you might have, but that's my install here in the cab. So I'm looking forward to hitting the trails and seeing what I can hear while I'm out there. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye.